Over your 5 years at Pakuranga College, you will be creating and accessing thousands of files. So it's crucial you get organized early so you can always find what you need and not waste time looking for your files. We don't really mind how you get organized as long as you can do the following. Firstly, you need to be able to find a file you are currently working on immediately. So if you're writing an essay last lesson, you can open it this lesson without having to hunt around. Also, you need to be able to refer to work that you have done recently almost immediately. This means you know where to find the file and you won't have to open 10 different files before you find the one you want. Also, you need to have your important work kept safe, which means backups. Lastly, you need to be able to do this without wasting an awful lot of time on it, micromanaging your files. So there's no one way to achieve all of this, but there are some standard practices that we'll talk about now. Firstly, and most importantly by far, whatever platform you are using, you must name your files sensibly, i.e. not like this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. If you have to open the file to check what's inside, then you didn't name it well enough. This can be a challenge when the file was downloaded from somewhere else, or if you have multiple similar pieces of work or different versions of the same piece of work. But it's just over to you to rename things and to move them to the right place and do whatever. So there's no one right way to name your files. You just try to be descriptive in the file name so you can look at it and see what's inside. And think about the future you, the person who's going to be looking for this file, maybe next lesson, maybe at the end of term, and how easy is it for them to be able to look at that file and know what's inside. Also, if you're sharing a file with someone, you need to be doubly carefully about the naming of it. So, for example, if you're submitting your work to your teacher and you just call it science, think about what would happen if everyone else did the same. So, as well as naming your files well, you need to think about where you put them. You're going to have folders. So, here's an example using Google Drive. You can do pretty much the same thing on your Windows laptop or your Apple laptop. You just need to get organized, and we're going to require you to do this. So in your Google Drive, even if you don't use it very much, we're going to get you to do this and check that you do it right. So there's easy to find guides on how to do this. You can just Google it. Most of the time you can just work it out for yourself once you know what you need to do. Whatever you do, it's important to think about backups. If you are doing any work that is for assessment or needs to be handed in, you should take copies. Often it is just enough to take a simple copy, like in Google Drive. Maybe you'll have a backup folder in Google Drive that you can move these things to afterwards. For more important work, you might want to just take your important work and download to a USB drive. This would be particularly important if you're doing NCEA work from year 10 onwards. There's other options as well. If you're in Evernote, you'd want to be tagging stuff appropriately. Or if you use OneNote for all your files, there's ways of organizing yourself there. We don't mind so long as you can follow those same basic rules all the way through, which are: you need to be able to find a file you are currently working on immediately, you need to refer to work that you've done recently almost immediately, and you need to have your important work kept safe, backups. So, to summarize what you need to do next, you need to set up a folder structure that you'll be using for your files in Google Drive, and then you need to show your peer supporter so they can tick off and say, yep, you're organized. You also need to show your peer supporter that any files you've made so far are well named. And lastly, you need to describe to your peer supporter how you are going to back up your important work, and that way you won't have to waste time over the years.